Welcome to another life-changing story, a tale of betrayal, revenge, and an unexpected twist you'll never forget. She paid for the house. She organized the trip. She dreamed of reconnecting with her family. But when her daughter-in-law pointed at the couch and said, "Let her sleep there," it was more than disrespect. It was the beginning of a war she didn't know she'd started. This story is for anyone who has ever felt unseen. Anyone who has given everything for their family and received nothing but silence in return. Anyone who's ever been told, "You don't matter anymore." You're about to witness how a quiet, overlooked grandmother transformed into the undercover boss of her own life, exposing family secrets, surviving betrayal, and delivering a revenge so precise, it left everyone stunned. If you love Undercover CEO stories, emotional family dramas, or stories with a deep moral twist, this one's for you. Stay until the end, because the final 5 minutes will leave you either in tears, rage, or cheering louder than ever. Hit like if you've ever felt underestimated, and subscribe for more true-to-life stories that prove kindness is not weakness. Let's begin. I still remember the moment as if it had been burned into my skin. 5 words. 5 small words that collapsed 67 years of my life. Let her sleep on the couch. If you're listening to me right now, you might think it's just an ordinary sentence. People say worse things every day. But imagine hearing it in the house you paid for. Imagine hearing it not from a stranger or an enemy, but from your own son's wife. Imagine realizing, in a single heartbeat, that you have become a guest, no, less than a guest, in the very space you created to bring your family together. That was me. My name is Hope. I'm 67 years old, and until that day I believed I understood what family love meant. I believed sacrifices came back multiplied. I believed that if you worked hard, if you gave everything, your children would grow into people who respected you. That belief died the second those words echoed through the hallway. I didn't even hear my own name, just her, as if I were a stray dog someone had found on the street. Let her sleep on the couch. And yet, I stayed silent, because that's what women of my generation were taught to do. Smile, endure, don't make a scene, don't ruin the moment. But inside, something else was happening. Something I hadn't felt since I was 23 years old and newly widowed with a baby in my arms. Rage, not sadness, not disappointment. Pure, volcanic rage. I had saved for 3 years from my small pension to rent that Florida beach house, $3,500. Every dollar earned from a lifetime of double shifts, of mended dresses, of meals skipped so my son could go to school. This was supposed to be my gift. A perfect week with my son Robert, my daughter-in-law Patricia, and my 2 grandchildren. A week of building sandcastles, of breakfasts on the terrace, of family closeness I had been starving for. But instead of gratitude, I got "let her sleep on the couch." And before you think this is just another sad story about an ungrateful family, stay with me. Because what happened after that night didn't just change my life. It changed my son's life. It changed the future of my grandchildren, and it turned his charming, manipulative wife into the protagonist of a downfall she never saw coming. I was standing behind the kitchen door when I heard Patricia talking to her own mother on the phone. She was assigning the rooms of the house as if she owned it. "Mom, you'll take the master. Dad gets the second bedroom. The kids will be in the back, and let her sleep on the couch." Her mom, her dad, the kids, everyone had a room, except me. My legs actually trembled. I had to grab the door frame to keep from falling. I could feel my heart beating in my ears. This wasn't just humiliation, this was erasure. And then I heard her laugh softly. "Oh, Mom, you'll see. Hope won't say a thing. She's one of those old ladies who does anything to be liked. She paid for the whole house without anyone asking her. Can you believe it? Women of her generation are like that, submissive. They put up with anything as long as they don't cause trouble. Submissive. The words sliced through me, as if my 67 years of life, my sacrifices, my dignity were worth nothing. But here's the thing Patricia didn't know. I was listening. Every word, every sneer, every piece of her plan. And as I stood there staring out at the ocean, I made a silent decision. For the first time in years, I wasn't going to cry from sadness. I was going to cry from rage. And rage, when it belongs to a grandmother who has nothing left to lose, is not quiet. If you think you know how this story ends, you don't. If you think I'm going to tell you about how I begged for respect, I won't. Because what I did next would transform me from a submissive old lady into the nightmare my daughter-in-law never imagined. In the next minutes, you'll hear how a 67-year-old grandmother became the undercover boss of her own life, exposing a web of manipulation, family secrets, and betrayal that almost destroyed everything she had built. And you'll understand why you should never, ever underestimate a woman who has spent decades surviving, sacrificing, and waiting. It all started with those 5 words. 5 words that felt like a slap. 5 words that opened my eyes. Let her sleep on the couch. But it wouldn't end there. When Patricia first called me with her wonderful idea, my heart leapt like it hadn't in years. "Hope," she had said in that sweet, rehearsed voice of hers, "we should all take a family vacation together. The kids, Robert, you, me, my mom, we've been so distant lately. It's time to make up for lost time." Make up for lost time. Those 4 words wrapped around my lonely evenings like a warm blanket. For 3 years, I had been living on scraps of affection, waiting for my son to remember the woman who raised him alone, waiting for my grandchildren's visits to go back to being weekends instead of maybe once a month, waiting for my phone to ring. And now here she was, offering me the dream I'd been secretly begging for, a whole week together. Sun, sand, laughter, mornings of pancakes for the kids, evenings of long talks with my son on the terrace. I could almost smell the ocean already. I should have noticed the red flags. I should have wondered why Patricia, who never invited me to anything, was suddenly planning a grand gesture. I should have questioned why her mother was mentioned so casually in the same breath as family. But hope is a dangerous thing when you're starved for it. When she said Florida had beautiful vacation houses with private pools and ocean views, my mind built an entire movie. Jacob learning to swim in that pool, Sarah collecting seashells with me on the shore, Robert finally relaxing, maybe even smiling the way he used to before the stress of work and marriage hardened his face. Patricia and I cooking together, maybe even becoming friends. Then came the part about money. She hesitated, just enough to sound believable. The problem is, with the kids' school expenses and Robert's business expansion, we're a little tight this month. But don't worry. We'll figure something out. Maybe just a long weekend at a simpler hotel. A simpler hotel? After she had painted such a vivid picture? My heart twisted. And before my brain could catch up, my mouth said, "How much would the house cost?" "Oh, Hope, I don't want to burden you with that," she replied softly. "It's about $3,500 for the week, but it's fully equipped. 5 bedrooms, a terrace, a private pool. But like I said, don't worry. We'll find something cheaper. The kids will understand." The kids will understand. My grandchildren, who had been asking me when we'd go to the beach together. Would they understand? Or would they remember forever that Grandma didn't make the effort? "No, wait," I said quickly, my voice trembling with excitement and fear. "Let me think about it." But there was nothing to think about. In my mind, I was already packing swimsuits, sunscreen, and storybooks for the kids, already imagining Robert telling me how proud he was of me for bringing the family together again, already tasting the coffee on that terrace overlooking the ocean. "You know what, dear?" I said finally. "I'll pay for the house. It will be my gift to all of us." There was a silence on the line, just 1 second, but long enough for me to picture Patricia's shark smile on the other side. "Really, Hope? Oh no, I can't let you do that. It's so much money." "That's what I work for. I replied softly, "so my family can be happy. Besides, it's been years since I treated myself. It will be my gift." "But Hope, are you sure?" "I'm absolutely sure," I interrupted. "In fact, I'm excited. It's been so long since we've organized something like this." "Oh, how exciting." "The kids are going to be so happy. And Robert is going to be so grateful. He always says you're the best mom in the world." My heart swelled. Maybe things weren't as bad as I thought. Maybe this was the chance we needed. "Let me just book the house before we lose it," Patricia said urgently. "Can you give me your card details?" I should have said I'd do it myself. I should have slowed down. But I was so full of hope after years of feeling invisible that I gave her all my information without hesitation. That night, I went to bed feeling like the luckiest woman alive. I had invested my savings in something worth more than any amount of money: quality time with my family. A whole week where we could talk, laugh, and remember why we loved each other. I dreamed of breakfasts on the terrace, of Robert telling me about his business while we drank coffee, of Patricia and me cooking side by side, of Jacob and Sarah running toward me on that perfect beach shouting, "Grandma!" How naive I was. Because what I didn't know, what Patricia had already planned, was exactly what that week would look like. Who would sleep where? What my place would be in her vacation house. What I also didn't know was that her cheerful Tuesday phone call was no accident at all, and that what she had in store for me was much worse than just sleeping on a couch. The house was perfect. It looked exactly like Patricia had described. White walls glowing under the Florida sun, floor-to-ceiling windows facing the turquoise sea, a pool that shimmered like liquid glass, palm trees swaying as if they had been planted just for us. But as soon as we stepped inside, I felt something else, a chill. Not from the air conditioning, from the way Patricia moved, like a queen returning to her castle. "Kids, come see your room," she shouted, grabbing the house keys and running ahead of everyone, her sandals clapping confidently against the marble floor. "Robert, honey, bring the heavy bags. Hope, just relax." Just relax. I followed her slowly, clutching my modest suitcase like a guest, hoping not to intrude. I'd wanted to explore the kitchen, pick the perfect room to wake up in, maybe even unpack with my granddaughter Sarah. But Patricia had already decided everything. She flung open doors like a realtor. "Robert, this is our room. It has a walk-in closet and a private jacuzzi," she said, already tossing her purse on the bed like she owned it. Then the kids' room. "Look, bunk beds and a view of the garden." I was right behind her, still holding my bag, still smiling politely, still waiting for her to say, "And you, Hope." And then, finally, "Oh, Hope, you can stay in the guest room. It's very comfortable. Own bathroom, AC works great." The guest room, in the house I paid for, not the master, not even the second room. The guest room. But the worst part, the part that made my heart skip, hadn't arrived yet. It came that afternoon when the doorbell rang. A taxi pulled up, and out stepped a tall, energetic woman in her early 60s, sunglasses perched high, dragging 2 large suitcases. "Mom!" Patricia shouted excitedly, rushing outside to hug her. "I'm so glad you're here." Her mother, the woman she had barely mentioned on the phone, the woman I hadn't even known was invited. The woman who was now walking into my rental house like a VIP. "Honey, this house is gorgeous," Maria said as she embraced her daughter. "And that terrace, it's perfect for my morning yoga." My jaw clenched. Her morning yoga? In a house I had scraped together savings for, dollar by dollar, for 3 years. "Let me show you your room," Patricia said cheerfully. "You're going to love it. The master has the best ocean view." The master. The best view. The room I had imagined myself in, watching the sunrise with coffee and peace, now handed over like a party favor. I stood there, frozen in place. "Patricia," I said gently, trying to keep my voice calm in front of the children. "I thought we were going to assign rooms together. I didn't know your mom was coming." "Oh, Hope," she said, blinking innocently. I completely forgot to mention it. My mom's had a hard time since she was widowed last year, and I thought this trip would cheer her up. You understand, right? Women our age need support. Women our age. Maria was 62. I was 67. But apparently, she deserved the master bedroom. And I was lucky to be included at all. Of course, dear, I said softly. What else could I say? The kids were jumping around, giggling and playing. I wasn't going to be the bitter old woman who ruined day one of their vacation. Robert said nothing, not one word. He didn't say, "Mom, are you okay with this?" He didn't even look at me. That night, I unpacked in the guest room, which smelled faintly of chlorine and cleaning fluid. I could hear Patricia and her mother giggling out on the terrace, sipping wine I had bought, enjoying my vacation as if I were a forgotten piece of furniture. I came downstairs hoping to join in the planning for the week, tours, meals, family time. But by the time I arrived, it was all done. "Oh, Hope," Patricia said with that syrupy smile. "Maria and I already made a little schedule. Everything's organized." She handed me a handwritten list of daily activities, meal plans, and quiet rest time, all color-coded. "Isn't it lovely?" Maria added. "We even chose recipes for every night. I'll make ceviche on Friday. It's my secret recipe." Her secret recipe. In the kitchen I had dreamed of using to cook breakfast for my family. "And how can I help?" I asked, trying to sound upbeat. "Oh, don't worry," Patricia replied with a pat on my hand. "You just relax and enjoy yourself. Maria and I have it all under control." Maria and I. Like I was the guest, like they were the hostesses. And slowly, quietly, I realized something chilling. I hadn't been invited to this vacation. I had been allowed to come, with my money, with no voice, with no room, and soon, as I would discover, with no place left at all. The second day of our vacation should have been magical. The kids were still glowing from the pool, their hair smelling of salt water and sunscreen. Robert was finally smiling again, a rare sight these days, and even I had tried to push aside the sting of being exiled to the guest room. But Patricia's plan wasn't finished. What I thought was a temporary slight was only the beginning of something much darker. It started innocently enough. We'd spent the morning at a historic site. The one Patricia had warned me was too tiring for someone my age. But while she and her mother looked for shade and perfect selfie spots, I was the first to climb the steps, the first to reach the main pyramid, the one carrying Jacob when his legs got tired. "Grandma, did you know the ancient people were super smart?" Jacob asked, his little hand warm in mine. "Of course, sweetheart. And they were brave, too," I told him, even as Patricia's voice drifted from behind. "Hope, don't carry him. You'll hurt your back." Hurt my back? Me, who had worked double shifts on my feet for 30 years. I just smiled and kept walking, my heart swelling with quiet pride. For a moment, I felt like myself again. Strong, capable, the grandmother I had dreamed of being. But when we returned to the house that evening, everything changed. The kids were asleep in the car, their cheeks sun-kissed and tired. Robert carried them to their room. I walked down the hallway to my guest room, humming softly as I thought about a cool shower and a quiet night. Then I opened the door. My suitcase was on the bed, packed. My clothes neatly folded but stacked as if for departure. The bedspread smooth and empty, like no one had ever stayed there. At first I thought it was a mistake. Maybe the cleaning staff had moved my things. Maybe Maria had reorganized something. "Patricia!" I called, my voice already shaking. "Patricia!" She appeared at the door, her expression that same fake sweetness, but her eyes glittering with something sharper. "Oh, Hope, I'm so sorry, I forgot to tell you. My cousin Jessica and her husband arrived as a surprise. They're on their honeymoon. Can you imagine? They urgently need a room." Her cousin, her husband, on their honeymoon, in my vacation house. I swallowed hard. "But where am I going to sleep?" Patricia's smile widened just enough to feel like a knife. Don't worry, the sofa in the living room is super comfortable. Memory foam cushions. Better than any 5-star hotel. The sofa. I stared at her, trying to process what she had just said. And they can't stay somewhere else? What other room, Hope? My mom's in the master. We're in the second. The kids are in the third. There are no more rooms. There was another room. A small study at the back with a sofa bed, but that space had been turned into a storage closet for Patricia and Maria's luggage. Patricia, I said quietly, but with more firmness than I had used in years. I paid for this house. For a second, her face changed, a flicker of irritation, of being caught off guard, but she recovered quickly. Yes, Hope, and we're all very grateful for that. That's exactly why we don't want you to worry about anything. We'll take care of making sure everyone is comfortable. You just relax. Relax on the living room sofa. Robert appeared then, sweaty and tired from carrying the sleeping children. "What's going on?" he asked, seeing our tense faces. "Nothing, honey," Patricia answered immediately. "I was just explaining to your mom that Jessica and Richard arrived by surprise, and we need to rearrange the rooms." "Oh, perfect," Robert said without even looking at me. "Have you had dinner yet? I'm starving." Perfect. He thought it was perfect. For his mother to sleep on the sofa while strangers occupied her room. That night was the longest of my life. I lay on that sofa in my cotton nightgown, covering myself with a thin blanket Patricia had found in the cleaning closet, listening to the laughter of my whole family enjoying their rooms. I heard the kids chattering excitedly about the pyramids. I heard Robert and Patricia talking quietly in their air-conditioned room. I heard Maria moving around in the master bedroom, my master bedroom, like the lady of the house. And there I was, in the living room, feeling every spring dig into my back, wondering how I had become so insignificant. But what truly destroyed me happened at 2 a.m. Patricia came downstairs for water, not realizing I was awake. She spoke on the phone in a low voice, but in that open house you could hear everything. "Linda, you won't believe how easy it was," she whispered to her sister with a laugh that chilled my blood. "The old lady paid for everything without asking any questions. $3,500. Can you believe it? And now she doesn't even dare to complain that I sent her to the sofa." The old lady. The old lady who paid for everything. "No, she won't say anything," Patricia continued. "She's one of those mothers-in-law who does anything to be liked. Robert's completely on my side now. He doesn't defend her like he used to. Honestly, I almost feel sorry for how desperate she is for attention." Desperate for attention, for wanting respect in the vacation I had paid for. But then came the dagger that pierced my heart. "The best part is that now that I've confirmed she's this submissive," Patricia said, "we can proceed with the plan I told you about. Robert is almost convinced she needs, more specialized care." Specialized care? What plan? "In 6 months tops, we'll have her in a place where she's well taken care of, and we can live peacefully without her always being in our business." A nursing home. They were planning to put me in a nursing home. I lay there on that sofa, tears streaming silently down my face, while Patricia tiptoed back upstairs. For the first time in my life, I felt like I wanted to die, like everything I had sacrificed had been for nothing, like my son saw me as a burden to be solved. But somewhere under the pain, something else began to rise. The same thing that had carried me through widowhood, through poverty, through years of double shifts, rage, pure volcanic rage. No, I was not going to let them destroy me. I was not going to be the submissive old lady anymore. And what Patricia didn't know was that night, while she slept peacefully, believing she had me under control, she had left her cell phone in the kitchen. And what I would discover there would give me the weapons to destroy her perfect world. At 4 a.m, I couldn't take it anymore. I had tossed and turned for hours on that lumpy sofa, every coil pressing into my bones, my mind spinning in a storm of betrayal, humiliation, and something else: fury. The house was silent. No laughter now. Just the low hum of the fridge and the faint waves crashing outside. I got up for water. My back ached as if I had been beaten, and my eyes burned from silent crying. I shuffled toward the kitchen in the dark, moving like a ghost through the house I had paid for but no longer belonged in. And then I saw it. Patricia's phone, lying on the counter, the screen still glowing, no lock, no password. She'd forgotten it after her late-night call, the one where she told her sister how easy I was to manipulate. I froze. My hand hovered over it. Now I was not the type to invade someone's privacy. I was raised with old-fashioned values, respect, boundaries, dignity. But that woman had just spoken about putting me in a nursing home, as if I were a used appliance, a piece of furniture to be thrown out once I'd served my purpose. I picked up the phone. My fingers trembled, my chest pounded, and the first message I saw changed everything. From Linda, her sister. "Did you convince her to pay yet?" Patricia. "So easy. Told her it was to bring the family together. She took the bait, $3,500 straight from her savings." Straight from my savings. My emergency fund I'd built slowly, dollar by dollar, by skipping meals and birthday gifts and doctor visits. The next message hit even harder. "Linda, you're evil. And Robert doesn't suspect anything?" Patricia. "Not a thing. He's so buried in work stress, he doesn't see what's right in front of him." Then came something even darker. A message from someone named Dr. Ruiz. A chill crept up my spine. Dr. Ruiz. "Mrs. Patricia, I have the commitment papers ready. Based on the psychological report you sent, there will be no issue arguing mental incapacity. Patricia. Perfect, and the property. Dr. May Ruiz. Your husband will gain legal control of all her assets immediately, and the house, accounts, everything." I had to sit down. I was shaking so badly the phone nearly slipped from my hands. My house, my accounts, everything I had worked for. They weren't just humiliating me. They were trying to erase me. My throat went dry as I tapped through more messages. To Lawyer Martinez. Patricia. "The numbers don't lie. Robert's business is $200,000 in debt. If we don't pay, we lose everything." Martinez. "If you sell your mother-in-law's house, it'll cover most of it. But you need her to sign or Robert must have power of attorney." $200,000 in debt. Robert hadn't said a word. He had always told me things were going fine. Patricia hadn't just been cold. She was desperate. Desperate enough to destroy me to save herself. But that wasn't the worst part. Not even close. In a folder labeled Work Insurance, I found hundreds of photos. Photos of Patricia with another man, younger, well-dressed, always in expensive restaurants or hotel rooms. They weren't business meetings. They were romantic getaways. I clicked into the chat. Work Insurance. "When will she sign?" Patricia. "Tomorrow. She thinks it's for health insurance. Once she signs, Robert can file for bankruptcy. We lose the company, but we keep the money." Work Insurance. "Then what?" Patricia. "Then I divorce Robert and we move to Costa Rica. Clean slate, clean money." I couldn't breathe. I clutched my chest. She wasn't just trying to steal my house. She was planning to destroy my son, emotionally and financially, and then vanish. She had played all of us, every smile, every compliment. Every "hope you're amazing." It had all been a script, a setup, but the part that made my blood boil, Patricia. She's so desperate to feel needed, she'll sign anything. She just wants to be liked. Like that was a weakness. Like love was a flaw. I sat there in the dark, the phone glowing in my hands, a Pandora's box of betrayal. And then, slowly, I turned it into my weapon. I took screenshots of every message, every photo, every transaction. My phone was old, slow. It took nearly 10 seconds to save each image, but I didn't care. I documented everything. When I was done, I placed her phone exactly where I had found it, and I stood in the center of that kitchen, barefoot, trembling, alone, but for the first time in years, I felt powerful because Patricia had made the biggest mistake of her life. She thought I was weak. She thought I was silent. She thought I wouldn't fight back. But that night, I became someone else. Not a guest, not a burden, not an old woman on a couch. I became her worst nightmare. By dawn, I wasn't the same woman who had lain on that sofa crying in silence. I wasn't the invisible grandmother anymore. I wasn't the quiet woman hoping to be invited. I wasn't the polite guest trying to earn a seat at her own table. I was a mother. I was a fighter. And most importantly, I was a woman with a plan. The sun rose over the ocean, casting golden light across the terrace. But it wasn't peace I felt. It was focus, purpose, cold, calculated clarity. Patricia thought she had won. She thought I was too naive, too desperate, too old to fight back. But what she didn't know was that I had survived harder things than her. I had survived losing my husband at 23. I had survived raising a child on a factory salary. I had survived being forgotten by the one person I gave everything for. And I would survive this and end it. First, I needed to act normal. When Patricia came down for breakfast, wearing one of her pastel matching sets, humming as if she hadn't plotted my destruction just hours earlier, I was already at the stove, cooking eggs, making coffee, smiling. "Oh, Hope," she said with sugary innocence. "How did you sleep on the sofa?" "Very well, dear," I replied, my voice warm as summer. "Better than in my own bed. That sea air really does wonders." I saw the relief flash across her face. She thought I was still asleep, in every sense of the word. Good. Let her think that. I needed time and information. While she busied herself laying out fruit platters and pretending to be the perfect hostess, I watched. Every glance she gave her mother, every whispered word, every time she checked her phone, now protected with a password, but too late. I already had what I needed. During breakfast, Patricia tried to continue her narrative. "Robert, honey," she said sweetly, refilling his coffee, "don't you think your mom's been looking a little tired lately?" It was her first move, planting seeds, making me seem frail, weak. Robert glanced at me. For a moment, concern flickered in his eyes. "You doing okay, Mom?" "I'm perfect," I said, meeting his gaze. "Just don't have the energy of you young people, but mentally, I'm sharp as a tack." Patricia's smile tightened. That didn't fit her story. She pressed again. "It's just, she forgot her purse at the pyramid site yesterday. 3 times, right?" "Lie. I never forgot anything." Robert nodded hesitantly. "I mean, yeah, I guess." Then I saw it. The genius of her plan. She hadn't just started manipulating him this week. She'd been doing it for years. Subtle, whispered, slowly making him believe I was fading, losing it. And I had let it happen, thinking I was being a good mother by staying silent. No more. "Robert," I said clearly, "I've never left the stove on, never lost my purse, and I certainly haven't forgotten who I am." Patricia interrupted. "Of course, Hope. It's probably just stress. It happens to all of us. But maybe we should go over those insurance papers today, just in case." She was baiting me, testing me. I smiled sweetly. "Speaking of forgetting things, Patricia, didn't you leave your phone in the kitchen last night?" Her face went white, completely drained. "My phone?" "Yes," I said, gently stirring the eggs. "Good thing I tucked it in the drawer so it wouldn't fall. Wouldn't want anyone to see anything private." Her hand trembled slightly as she lifted her coffee, but she said nothing. She knew. She knew that I knew, and she had no idea what I was going to do about it. That afternoon, while Patricia went for a walk on the beach, which I knew was code for calling her lover, I began the second phase of my plan. I approached Robert while he was sitting alone on the terrace. "Son," I said softly, "you've seemed worried. Is everything okay with work?" He tensed immediately. "It's complicated." "I know about the debt, Robert." His eyes widened. "What? I know your company is $200,000 underwater. I know Patricia has been keeping things from you. How do you—" "Because your wife isn't as careful as she thinks," I replied, "and because a mother knows when her son is in trouble." He didn't deny it. His shoulders dropped, and he looked out at the sea. "I didn't want to worry you, Mom. Patricia said a lot of things," I interrupted gently. "But you and I are going to have a real talk tomorrow, and you're going to hear the truth. All of it." That night, as I laid once again on the torture couch, I didn't feel weak. I felt ready. Patricia thought I was asleep. She thought she had the upper hand. She thought she would corner me into signing papers I didn't understand, but she didn't know that I had already made the most important call of my life. To someone who had my back, to someone who knew how to fight fire with fire, and tomorrow Patricia would find out just how badly she had underestimated me, because I wasn't planning revenge fueled by anger anymore. I was planning a lesson she would never forget. The last full day in that Florida house began like any other, the sun rising, the sea humming outside, Patricia singing in the kitchen, pretending life was perfect. But I knew what was coming. Today, her perfect world was going to collapse. Today, the curtain would be pulled back, and the woman who thought she had everyone fooled would face the consequences of underestimating a grandmother with receipts. That morning, Patricia tried one last time. "Hope," she said, her voice coated in syrup. "Did you give any more thought to signing those health insurance documents? It's just 2 signatures. Robert will be so relieved when we get home with everything in order." I smiled as I buttered toast. "Oh yes, I've been thinking a lot. And don't worry, I agree. We need to take care of it today." She blinked. "Really?" I nodded. "After lunch, let's all sit together. You, me, Robert, your mom. It's important we're all on the same page." I could see the flicker of doubt in her eyes, the calculations behind her fake smile, but she nodded. "Of course. That's a great idea." By 4 p.m., the sun was beginning to dip. The light stretched golden over the terrace. The ocean was calm, like it knew a storm was about to break somewhere else. I called everyone to the terrace. The kids were in their room watching cartoons, their little voices echoing in the background. "Family," I said, standing tall. "Before we go home tomorrow, there's something important I need to share." Robert sat next to me, still unaware of the firestorm he was about to walk into. Patricia sat across, next to her mother Maria, both of them hiding behind smiles that were about to crack. "Patricia," I began, "you asked me to sign some health insurance documents, yes?" She nodded too quickly. "Yes, Hope, just routine paperwork." "And you told me it was nothing to worry about." "Exactly. Totally standard." I took a breath and reached for the folder I had prepared that morning. Slowly, carefully, I opened it. "Then you won't mind if I read exactly what they say." Out loud. Patricia's smile faltered. Her mother shifted uncomfortably. I began to read. Word for word. Not health documents, not insurance paperwork, a full legal power of attorney. One that gave Robert control over my house, my bank accounts, and, most chilling of all, the right to commit me to any institution of his choosing. Robert sat up straight. "What? Patricia, is this true?" I thought that's what you wanted," she stammered. "To help your mom manage things as she got older." But I wasn't done. I pulled out the first photo. "Here's a screenshot of your messages with your sister, where you call me a submissive old lady who paid for everything without asking." Robert's face drained of color. I handed him the next image. "Here's a message where you talk to Dr. Ruiz about fabricating a psychological report to claim I'm mentally unstable." Patricia lunged forward. Robert, she went through my phone. That's illegal. She's violating my... Is it true? Robert snapped. His voice wasn't angry, Omaha. It was broken. She froze. I was just trying to protect us. I kept going. Here's a conversation with lawyer Martinez about how Robert's company is $200,000 in debt, and your plan to sell my house to cover the losses. Robert jumped to his feet. You told me it was $50,000. You lied to me? Robert, calm down. No, you've been lying to me for years. What else, Patricia? What else haven't you told me? I pulled out the final envelope, the one that would end it all. These, I said quietly, are photos of your wife with her lover, in restaurants, in hotels, in his arms. Robert stared at the photos in silence. He didn't speak, didn't blink. Then in the smallest voice I'd ever heard from him, he asked, "Who is he?" Patricia sobbed. "Robert, I can explain." "Who is he?" Maria finally spoke, her voice shaking. "Patricia, is all of this true?" "Mom, you knew about some of it. I knew you wanted Robert to handle finances. I didn't know about the lies, the affair, the scam." Her voice cracked. "You used me too." The room spun in silence. Robert turned to me, his eyes filled with tears. "Mom, I'm so sorry. I didn't see any of this. I let her treat you like this. There's nothing to forgive," I whispered. "A mother protects her child, even when he's too blinded to see the truth." Patricia collapsed into her chair, mascara smearing, trying to piece together an excuse that didn't exist. But it was too late. The queen of the house had been dethroned, and I, the woman who was sent to the couch, now sat at the head of the table. Patricia had lost control. Her lies were laid bare. Her carefully constructed image of the perfect wife, the thoughtful daughter-in-law, the caring planner of a family vacation. It had all shattered in front of her. But she wasn't finished. Not yet. When she realized she had no defense left, no more explanations, no more accidents to hide behind, she turned vicious. It was the final act of a desperate woman with nothing left to lose. "Fine," she hissed, standing suddenly, her tear-streaked face contorted into something unrecognizable. "If you're going to destroy me, I might as well destroy you, too." Robert and I turned, stunned. "Robert," she said, her voice now sharp and shaking, "your company didn't just go bankrupt because of bad luck. You and your partner were embezzling money from government contracts. I have the fake invoices. I have the proof. Don't act like you're so innocent." The air was sucked out of the room. Robert turned white. "What? What are you talking about?" She stepped closer, eyes wild. "Don't lie. You signed off on those inflated budgets. You reported materials you never bought, billed for projects that were never finished. You wanted to keep up, remember? You said everyone in the industry does it." His mouth fell open. I didn't know it was illegal. I thought..." Patricia smirked, the cruelty returning to her voice. "If your mommy tries to send me to jail, guess what? I'll take you down with me. You'll both go down. How's that for family unity?" For a moment, no one spoke. Even Maria looked horrified, backing away from her own daughter. Then I stepped forward, slowly, calmly. "Patricia," I said, steady as stone, "you've just confirmed what I already suspected, that this wasn't just about greed, it was about destruction. You weren't trying to save your marriage. You were trying to erase it, and me, and everyone who got in your way." She opened her mouth, but I raised a hand. "But here's the thing you never understood. Yes, Robert made mistakes, big ones, but we don't cover them up with more lies. We take responsibility." I turned to my son. "Robert, it's time. We're not letting her hold this over you." He looked at me, tears in his eyes. "Mom, if I come clean, I could lose everything." I put a hand on his shoulder. "You already lost your soul trying to protect her lies. Now it's time to get it back." His voice cracked. "But I'll go to jail." I nodded. "Then you'll go. You'll serve your time, and when you come out, you'll be free. No blackmail, no guilt, no more hiding in her shadow." He took a long breath, and then, like a man rising from the ruins of his own downfall, he nodded. "You're right." Patricia laughed bitterly. "You're insane, both of you. Do you think the court will go easy on you because you have morals?" I met her gaze. "I think the truth always wins. Maybe not right away, maybe not without scars, but it wins." She backed away, her mask finally falling. The confident planner of family trips was gone, the manipulative mastermind exposed. Robert turned to her, his voice cold and clear. "I'm filing for divorce tomorrow. You won't see the kids again unless a judge allows it. And I'm reporting everything about me and about you." She screamed, not words, just a raw, helpless scream. And for the first time, I didn't feel scared. I felt strong. Maria sat silently, tears in her eyes. "I didn't know it had gone this far," she whispered. "Hope, I'm sorry. I believed in her." "I understand," I said softly. "So did I." 3 months later, Patricia was sentenced to 5 years in prison for fraud, forgery, and attempted financial abuse of a senior. Her lover disappeared the moment the money dried up. Her so-called fresh start in Costa Rica? Gone. Robert turned himself in. He confessed everything. He returned every dollar. He served 6 months in prison, was fined, and stripped of his license. But when he came home, he was free. He had nothing left. No company, no mansion, no flashy suits. But he had peace, and he had me. Today, Robert works for a small, honest construction firm. He earns less, but he sleeps better. The grandchildren spend weekends at my house, the same little 2-bedroom home I nearly lost. Jacob helps me water the garden. Sarah is learning how to bake cinnamon cookies. And me? I'm not just a mother, I'm not just a grandmother. I'm a woman who stood up, who refused to be erased, who chose dignity over silence. Sometimes the greatest victories are the quietest ones, not courtroom wins, not public shaming, but moments when you finally reclaim the pieces of yourself you forgot you were allowed to own. It's been 3 months since that trip. 3 months since I slept on a couch in a house I paid for. 3 months since I watched my son's world collapse and rise again. And in that time, I've thought deeply about what I've lived through. What happened to me wasn't just about one woman's greed. It wasn't just about Patricia's manipulation, or Robert's blind spots, or even the money. It was about something deeper. It was about how easy it is for people to make a woman, especially an older woman, invisible. You see, when you reach a certain age, people stop asking what you think. They stop noticing when you're hurt. They treat your kindness as weakness, your silence as submission, your love as an obligation. I had spent years being the good one, the easygoing mother-in-law, the understanding grandmother, the polite widow who didn't make trouble. And I thought that made me strong. But now I see I was shrinking. I was giving away space I had earned. And worst of all, I was teaching my family, without realizing it, that I didn't need to be respected. Not anymore. That ends now. Because here's what I've learned. 1. Love without respect is not love. I loved my family with everything I had, but I didn't demand respect in return. And that's not humility. That's self-erasure. 2. Boundaries are not selfish. They're survival. Being generous is beautiful. But there's a line between giving from love and being taken for granted. The moment I let Patricia rearrange my place in the family, I gave her permission to erase me. Never again. 3. Age is not weakness. I may be 67, but I am sharper than ever. I've raised a child, survived grief, built a home, and brought down a woman who thought she could outsmart me. Never, ever underestimate a woman who has survived life's storms. 4. It's never too late to reclaim yourself. I could have let them put me in a home. I could have stayed silent, but instead I chose to rise. And it wasn't loud or flashy. It was careful, patient, strategic, because revenge isn't about destruction, it's about restoration. Today I live alone, and I've never felt more at peace. My little house has been repainted, new curtains hang in the windows, geraniums bloom in the front yard, and every morning I brew cinnamon coffee just the way my grandmother taught me. My grandchildren come to stay on weekends. We laugh, we bake, we dance in the kitchen. There are no games, no secrets, just love. Honest, respectful love. Robert is rebuilding his life, one honest paycheck at a time. He's not the man Patricia molded. He's my son again. And that's a gift I never thought I'd get back. As for Patricia, well, she's behind bars, serving 5 years for fraud and forgery. Her lover vanished the second she had no more money to offer. She lost everything because she tried to take what wasn't hers. And I don't feel sorry for her, not anymore. Because the truth is, the real tragedy would have been if I had stayed silent, if I had let her win, if I had let my legacy fade with a whimper. But I didn't. And if there's one thing I want you to take from my story, it's this. You are never too old to demand respect, never too old to draw the line, never too old to say, enough. Being kind does not mean being invisible. Being loving does not mean being a doormat. Being older does not mean being obsolete. You are still here. You still matter. And your story, your dignity, is worth fighting for. So if you're listening to this right now, and you've ever felt small, ignored, erased, remember this. The family that makes you feel invisible is not family. Family sees you. Family hears you. Family honors your presence and never asks you to sleep on the couch in a house you paid for. Now, I live my days in peace, surrounded by honesty, by true love, by laughter that isn't forced. And I wake up every morning knowing one thing for sure. I didn't just survive Patricia. I outsmarted her. I outlived her lies. And I left her with something she never expected, a legacy she'll never outrun. Because in the end, the sweetest revenge is living a life so dignified that those who underestimated you spend the rest of their lives regretting it. And that was how she went from the couch to the head of the table. This wasn't just a revenge story. It was a story of dignity, boundaries, and rediscovery. She didn't scream. She didn't break down. She didn't fight with fists. She fought with facts, with patience, with love that refused to be destroyed. And in doing so, she taught us all something we too often forget. If they don't value your presence, they'll feel your absence. If they underestimate you, they'll regret it. If you rise with grace, you win without cruelty. So now ask yourself, who in your life needs to hear this story? Who in your circle has been too quiet for too long, too forgiving, too patient, too erased? Share this story with them. Let it be a mirror. Let it be a warning. Let it be a spark. And if you are the one who's been silent, I hope this story lit something inside you. You are not too old, you are not too late, and you are not invisible. Because as this grandmother showed us all, the sweetest revenge is not payback, it's peace. It's watching those who buried you realize you were the root all along. If this story moved you, comment, "I won't stay silent" below, like the video, and subscribe for more stories that remind us real strength wears soft faces, but never forgets what it's worth. Until next time, be kind, be strong, be seen.